A couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, I got a call from a couple of people asking me if I could help through a transitional time. And like I said, I was kind of surprised about Mark leaving, because we had talked about a whole lot of really cool things that we wanted to do. Because he recently joined the John Maxwell team. We were looking at Youth Max, we were looking at all these different programs that we could do to have Minnetonka, to help Minnetonka Church to really gain traction in the community. I was humbled, I was honored, and I was actually kind of a little overwhelmed when I was asked to come in and help through the transition. And yet, I also started to hear a voice inside of me that said, this is what you prepared for, what I've prepared you for your whole life, going through your career. And the voice continued to say, and you asked for this 1.5 years ago. And I didn't even know that. I talked with Elder Joshua this week, and I said, about 1.5 years ago, we were in transition. We were moving from Minnesota to Wisconsin. I had never moved outside of the company moving me, so I didn't know how to pack a box, right? Much less organize it. So during that time of high anxiety, I prayed to God, and I said, I'm turning this over to you. I want to do whatever your will is. I don't know this new church that we're going to join. I know Minnetonka. I love Minnetonka. I don't know about the new church. Help me to be able to go there and not only join the church, but to be a part of it and to help you in your mission. And then I said it's not necessarily a ridiculous thing, but I said, I'm committed to, I'm going to take this vow that whatever door you open, I will walk through. And whatever door you close, I will not try to break down. Okay, that's about 1.5 years ago. Fast forward, right after Ukraine was invaded, I wanted to go to Ukraine. And I was praying, Lord, go to Ukraine. I know that I can help. I can at least be comforting to people. That door never opened. But this door did. And so when I was thinking about this and talking about it, I said, okay, Lord, if this is really what you want me to do, then make it possible for me to do that. But I was surprised at how fast this happened once it started to happen. I was surprised around the circumstances because, it looks like when things are at their darkest, that's really when the opportunities are. I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. I'm going to be honest with you. I was asked to come and help and serve during the transition. I said, okay. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure what I need to do. But when I came here earlier, I just said, look, Elder Joshua, Elder Marilyn, whatever I can do to help, just let me know, okay? And I said that to Yvonne and to all the other people. Adriana, same thing. Whatever I can help, let me do. So the next several weeks, I'm going to be here. Sorry, you're stuck with me, but here's what I'd like you to do, really, for me, is I need your help because I want people to come back to church. I was talking with a couple of people this week, and I said, during the pandemic, we all sat home, we watched online, we did all of that. But how would you feel if your family never came together? If your friends never came together, if you only Zoomed all the time, okay? So Zoom is great because you can keep up with people. But watching online isn't interactive. Man, we gain strength when we're together. We get great ideas when we're together. So my ask of you is to ask people to come back. Ask people to come here. Over the next several weeks, and I never thought I would do a series, okay? I mean, a series of messages. But my message is, the series is going to be focus on Christ and fast forward. And if you're not ready to fast forward, call me, let me know, text me, okay? We'll talk about it. Because by focusing on Christ and by focusing on what we can do to help him in his mission that he gave us, the Great Commission, We will no longer be focused on ourselves and our needs, but we will be focused on others' needs. So this week, it's caterpillars and butterflies. Next week, it's going to be built to God's specs. If anybody's put a Lego set together, you'll love next week. If anybody stepped on a Lego, you might not like next week. The other one is the following week is going to be built for a purpose, for God's purpose. And then I'm going to wrap it up with designed and dedicated for significance. So we are going to move from caterpillars and butterflies all the way over to significance and how we, with God's help, can be significant in other people's lives and in the community. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us together today. And Father, I ask that you please speak through me, use me as your tool, and may the people hear what they need to, even if it's not what I say. In your name I ask, amen. Caterpillars and butterflies. So, oh, look at that. I like that. Okay. So, change is usually never easy, right? Changes, if we want changes, we usually want to initiate them. But I'm going to go far out on this limb, if you will, a little play on the whole caterpillars, far out on a limb. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the majority of changes we find in our lives are as a result of other things that happen to us, right? So change is never easy, but it's always, always necessary. Just think, if we didn't have change, I wouldn't have a car to drive in, right? If we didn't have innovative ideas and creative ideas, we would be back, however they communicated in the olden days. And I am so glad for many, many of the inventions that have come out of that. I also like to say anything worthwhile having is all uphill. In essence, you need to work, you need to think about, okay, what is worth having? What is worth doing? It's uphill. Zig Ziglar wrote a book, and some of you may know him. He's probably arguably one of the best motivational speakers of all time. I went to a couple of his conferences, and one conference that I'm at, he said, "Doug, what is your goal?" And I said, "Well, okay, Zig, I'll tell you, I would like to share the stage with you someday at one of your conferences." He says, "Okay, we're at a break now. You've got 5 minutes before we end, and you're going to come up and share the stage with me." Okay. Be careful what you ask for. Be careful what you wish for. Same thing when I asked God to lead me, and I turned it over, and I was committed to doing it. Zig Ziglar wrote a book, and it was called Embrace the Change. See, all of his life, he was going around with these motivational speaking, and he got people all excited, and he always said, "I'm just the light switch. I can flip a switch on, and you can see what's inside of you and take that action." Well, when he fell at his house down the steps, he hit his head. And the family noticed the change. Now, for those of us that have experienced when our family or people that we love start to get a little bit older, sometimes their memory gets a little bit shorter. My mom was that way. And when I saw that my mom started to have a little bit shorter memory, I bought this book called Embrace the Change. And in it, Zig Ziglar starts out by saying, "I drive my family crazy because I don't have the memory that I used to have. But the beautiful thing is, everything is new to me every 5 seconds." And I thought of that, and I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. As we go through change, it's not bad. We need to embrace the change. We need to hold on to that change, and we need to really support that change and to move forward. And so what better way to think about that than to think about butterflies and caterpillars. So, fast facts on caterpillars. I just love this. So they have basically 6 pairs of eyes, right? On the sides of there. So 12 eyes in all. They only have 3 pairs of true legs, which are the forward legs, right? The back legs, the 6 back legs, all they do, 6 pairs, all they do is just kind of push, 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 right? But the front legs, well, they can climb, they can go sideways, but the back legs are just kind of dragging along, right? When the eggs hatch, man, they feast like there's no tomorrow. I mean, they bulk up. In fact, it's interesting when you look at some of the information that's out there. Caterpillars can eat so much in a day that they double their size overnight. From the time they hatch until the time they go into their cocoon, they have grown up to 3,000 times the size that they first started out. 3,000 times. And by the way, they're only in this caterpillar stage for between 8 and 21 days, okay? So I was amazed when I read that, they're on this leaf, they eat the little egg that they came out of, they eat the leaf, that's very good for them. Caterpillars, when the monarch butterfly caterpillar, this is the one that they had a lot of research on. So the monarch caterpillar the monarch butterfly lays between 400 and 1,200 eggs in their lifespan. Anybody have any idea as to what percentage grow to be full-grown monarch butterflies? 1%? Pretty close. Huh? It's 5 to 10%. Only 5 to 10% of those eggs actually get to be butterflies, okay? 5 to 10%. They either are eaten as eggs, they die as caterpillars before they get to the butterfly stage. They're food, right, for other little critters. So within, if you survive as a caterpillar in all of that, right, then you go into this little cocoon stage. Now, when they first start to get into the cocoon stage, the first 18 hours after that chrysalis closes around them are the most critical, because it's during that stage that it's soft, so that if anything comes along, it can break through and it can eat them. If it falls off, they're done. So when we think about this whole caterpillar thing going in, it's not like they go in and once they're there, they're safe and then they come out the other side. That is not the case. In fact, they're kind of unstable. For those caterpillars, oh, thank you. Soup time. I'm glad you guys are watching because I got my little thing here that I should have put up there. So inside of this cocoon, the caterpillars actually eat themselves. They liquefy. They are totally broken down. They die, which I did not know, okay? They die, and then the liquid comes back together again, and out comes a butterfly. You can see this. They're in the cocoon. After 18 hours, it solidifies. And then the little critter inside that crawled in there dies, and it's liquid. In fact, if you cut one of them open, what I was reading, it says you would basically have soup that comes out. Okay? They come out, but not all caterpillars come out. Some are going to fall by the wayside. And it reminds me of Jesus when he talked about the seeds that were planted. Some were on hard ground, and they didn't stand a chance. Others were in the soil, but they didn't plant the deep roots. And so when things came along that distracted them, that blew them aside, they were uprooted and they died. And others went into the firm soil, and they got great roots, and they ate up the nutrients, and they lived and they grew stronger. No matter all of the hurricanes and winds and earthquakes, they were strong. The caterpillar's lifespan is short. It goes into a cocoon. It has no idea what's going to happen. In fact, the caterpillar is just like, okay, I'm going to eat, and then all of a sudden it becomes really, really tired. Now, when the caterpillar goes into the cocoon, it may not come out as a butterfly. It may come out as a moth. In fact, there's about 20 to 25,000 different species of butterflies. There's 160,000 species of moths. How many like moths? Okay. Why do we think of moths as being bad, right? Well, because they damage clothes, they get into your pantry, they take over your food. In fact, there's a video on YouTube that actually shows a moth putting 2 eggs in a reporter's ear as he was in the Smithsonian Butterfly Museum. Watch it when you want to, not yet. Okay, don't watch it yet. And so I'm thinking, okay, and there's also a phobia of moths, which is actually motophobia. Just wanted to throw that out there. So I'm thinking, what good are moths? If you emerge as a moth, right? If you emerge as a moth, what good purpose could you possibly have? And I found some very great purposes. One, and the first and foremost, is they're food for songbirds and other birds. They're good to be eaten. They're food. Without moths, we wouldn't have some of the birds that chirp and wake us up at 4:30 in the morning when the sun comes up here in the summertime. Without them, we wouldn't have some other insects, because the other insects feed on them as well. Moths do provide food. So we've got butterflies and moths. We have whatever's going to come out. In fact, while it's not, you can't really accurately predict, is little fuzzy wuzzy going to be a moth or a butterfly? There are a few trends that people have noticed. And the trend is that those cute little fuzzy wuzzies, the one that looks so cute and you just think are wonderful, they tend to be moths. And the other ones that are spiky and look really ugly and really look like little demons, they tend to come out as beautiful butterflies. Beautiful butterflies. Now I'm going to see if this actually works. This is a video that, if it works, it's going to be great. It's about 1.5 minutes, but it's going to show a monarch butterfly. I'm glad that they time-lapsed this, because when the butterfly flies away, it has to stay there for about an hour while its wings dry. So it hangs on there for about an hour just to, fluff itself to get its wings to dry so that it can fly. Now, I mentioned the caterpillars have 6 eyes, but I think I forgot to mention that the only thing that those eyes see are light and dark. That's it. The butterflies, when they come out, they have 2 eyes, but 20,000 lenses in those eyes. 20,000. So they can see colors. They can see in the dark and know where they're going if they want to lay their eggs, okay? 20,000 lenses. In fact, that gives them visibility of a 346 degrees, 347 degrees. Now, ours is about 190 degrees that you can see, right? Peripheral. Butterflies can see almost completely around them. Unbelievable. You go in as blind, only being able to see light and dark, and you come out with this incredible vision, albeit short. They can only see about 10 to 12 feet in front of them. But they come out and being able to see all of these colors. And it's just, it really is amazing, this whole process. So butterflies and moths are reborn. They come back together. This is how God created them. I mean, can you imagine the creator of the universe creating a caterpillar that turns into either a moth, which is food, or a butterfly, which provides beauty and continues the species at the same time? I'm just awestruck at the lessons that we can learn with the butterflies. When we take a look at the butterflies, they have different lifespans. And this is what really intrigues me in the lifespans. So there's a type of butterfly that may live 24 hours. At most, it'll live 3 days. In that butterfly, they don't know how long they're going to live, but they go out immediately to find a mate so that they can lay their eggs so that they can continue on. And they have to find just the right plants. 3 days max, sometimes 24 hours. There's an urgency, there's a sense of urgency when butterflies come out. The monarch butterfly, this is just a phenomenal butterfly. You've all heard about the pads of the monarchs, right? They're smart. They go from the north in the summer to down south for the winter, okay? When the northern monarchs come out, because their eggs were laid there, they come out, they turn out into butterflies. About October, they start migrating south, 2,500 miles. They can fly at about 12 miles per hour at about a 11,000 foot level. Some can go up to 20,000. They get down to South America or to Mexico. How do they know to go to a specific area? Because that is where the plants are contained, that they can put their eggs that will then hatch, and it'll be a legacy in the next generation. How do they know? How do they know? They go down 2,500 miles, lay down there, sit down there, and they lay their eggs. And then they kind of just hibernate and die. So monarchs, they live like 9 months, maybe 12. The little hatchlings down there, when they hatch, they migrate north. So, whoop, butterfly. Oh yeah, I love that one, but it looks like it has eyes. It's actually kind of creepy, but it's cool. So, this is the amazing transformation. 3 steps. It goes from eggs to caterpillars or moths. They feast. To caterpillars. It goes into this chrysalis. It comes out as a butterfly, and then it's repeat. It's kind of like a shampoo. And you can see how they migrate. I mean, this to me is phenomenal, the migration. But before they migrate, or as they migrate, they have gone through very traumatic times. If they survive the egg stage, they go into the caterpillar stage. If they survive that stage, they go into a very dark place, and they die. They liquefy. They die. And then a few days later, whether it's 6 days up to 12 or 14 days, they come out as a butterfly or a moth. Out of the darkness comes beauty or food. Out of the darkness comes beauty and creates smiles on our faces when we look at that. I mean, when I found the video about the monarch hatching or coming out, it almost took me back to when my kids were hatched, right? And just the joy and the awe-inspiring that it is. I never thought I could be that emotional, but when you see that newborn, when we see our youth here in the church, here trying to feed on God's word, trying to learn from us things that they will need, the spiritual food, the spiritual attitude that they need that will carry them forward and keep them in the church, they look to us. They look to us for that guidance. And as they continue to emerge and develop, we want to nourish them. As Paul says, we start out with milk, but then we need to get to the meat, veggie meat. We need to get to that end, right? And so as they emerge out of the darkness, they're into the light. A couple of weeks ago, Robert called me, and he's Eden Prairie firefighter, and he says, "Daddy, you'll never guess what I did." I'll put out a big fire. He says, "No, I just delivered a baby." Right? I'm like, he is such an introvert, right? He just delivered a baby, and I said, "What was that like?" And he said, "I just can't explain it. I can't explain it." We can't explain it. We can't explain the beauty. We were formed by God. The caterpillars grow up. How do they know to fly south when they're butterflies? As I looked in the Bible, there are examples in the Bible of darkness and light times. Anytime I'm going through really dark time, I kind of look at the book of Job. But man, that's kind of depressing too. It's almost like listening to country music. When I look at some of the dark times, I look at Moses, and this is what I wanted to just kind of touch on. Moses, 120 years he lived, right? He went from crisis to trial to triumph. The first 40 years, the crisis was initially that he was hunted, right? I mean, they were putting all the babies, they were killing them all, right? All the baby boys, kill them all. So he was put in the water in a basket. God was watching over him. And then he grew up in royalty. I mean, he went into the king's palace, and he was royalty. So when he walked around town, he got the respect he needed. Keeping it 100 here as I start my lingo. But then something happened, a crisis. He killed somebody because he could not take watching the Egyptian beat one of his people. He was done. He killed somebody. He took a life. And then he had to run to the wilderness. He had to go into the wilderness, and he's like, "Okay, I'm done. You know what? I don't need that life anymore." It would be like if we decided we're done here. We're going to leave. Don't like whatever's happening. We're going to leave. Never going to come back. But it was in that time that Moses had to tend to sheep and had to do all of those things in isolation, that he developed the skills that he would need to lead the people out of Egypt and into or to the promised land. He didn't know it. He didn't know it. He didn't leave saying, "I'm going to come back and rescue everyone." No, he left because he was ashamed. He killed somebody. So then he goes back. And it's like, okay, wait a minute. You're coming back. You killed somebody. What good are you? When he went back, there were very hard times for the Egyptians. It was a period of darkness because the idiot that was leading the Egyptians would just say, "I'm not going to listen to that." Plagues, locusts, moths, all of them descended. Finally, the firstborn in every family was killed except for the families that had the blood on the door. Now, when I think about this blood on the door, I think about, was it the blood that saved him, or was it that I believed that this is what I was told by God, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. It's the faith that the people demonstrated. If some of the Israelites didn't believe, and they said, "I'm an Israelite, I deserve, my kids won't be hurt because God knows me." No. That's not the case. They acted on God's word. They showed that they stood out, that they were a difference in the world. And because of that, their firstborn wasn't killed, and ultimately they went out into the desert, and while not all of them made it to the promised land because of their actions, many did. Moses shows us kind of what you go through. Friends, I don't know everything that's going on here. I know some. I know some just to be kind of really sad. Because for me, as I've said, and you've heard me say, this is my home church. I may be in Wisconsin, but it's only 4 hours away. But we've stayed here the longest out of any place that we've lived. And whether it's a family member and you're sad over things, or whether you're sad because a friend of yours is going through a crisis, this is a family. This is a family. And for me, I will do anything I can to help in any way I can. I took that vow. I made that vow to God. And wherever this leads is what His will is. We have to not have any hidden agendas. My agenda is, I'm here for as long as I'm wanted, to do whatever is needed, and to help in any way I can. That's it. That's it. I will say that you're stuck with me for the next 3 weeks or so in terms of the sermons. But I'm here to help. But no one person, no one group can bring people together and have them focus forward. Only God can do that. And God needs our help, every person in here. Because if there's one person that says, I'm not with this, then like the caterpillar, they're going to die on the vine, and they're going to be the people that don't have the roots that are needed to take them through the challenging times. And this is true anywhere. And while I don't want to sound callous, what I do want to say is I encourage people, let's get on this bandwagon of looking forward. Because when we spend time looking in our rearview mirror, even the cruise on our car that can sometimes adjust the speed won't keep us from having a really bad accident. And we need everybody to go forward. In fact, one of the things that I've said is I'd love to have all the leaders, everybody come together, and let's just talk. So as I look to close up, struggles and dark times, they're a part of life. We go through that. And I've said this before, our relationships with Christ go in and out. I mean, when things are going real well, sometimes we don't necessarily stay as close to God as we should until the hard times come, kind of like the Israelites. And we laugh at them. We're like, you had manna. You had the Red Sea part. You were witnesses. And wow, you kind of slid backwards. Well, guess what? We do the same. Crises, though, they don't define us. They refine us. It's in the challenges, in the valleys of our lives, in the dark times, like in the chrysalis, that we die and we come out better. And the butterfly says, not only do you change inside, but you've got a very limited time to do what you need to do to be a significant difference in other people's lives and in the world. You need to be focused. So what I'm here to say and to share is that while I'm here, I'm going to be totally focused on Christ and His mission. I want to get ideas. I'm going to share ideas. I want us to start to focus on that, because when the next pastors, when the next people come in, they're going to see a church that's not divided, but that is focused forward, laser focused on Christ to get His will done so that we can go to heaven. Because I'll tell you what, the world is not getting any better. It is not. It is getting worse. And we know this because it was already predicted. During crisis, Great leaders emerge and fly. Pretend leaders emerge and die because they're food. Okay? Or they don't even emerge. They just die. They wither because they just don't have the sustenance. Some will fall by the wayside. So I do have some questions that I felt like God asked me, and the questions that I want to ask you. And you don't have to raise your hands. You don't have to say, me. Here are some questions, though, that I want to leave you with today. Are you willing? Are you willing to join this movement forward? That's the first. You have to be willing. Are you able? You may be willing, but you might not be able. Are you prepared? And that is a tough question to answer because, like I said early on, when I asked God to lead and to open the doors, and then I got this opportunity, I clearly heard in my mind that this is what I have been preparing you for the last, well, I won't say how many years, but it's over 50 years, for your entire life. Are you prepared? Will you focus only on Him and what He wants us to do and bring others in and not focus on the differences? And the final question is, what will you do? Friends, we've got a decision to make. We've come to the proverbial fork in the road. We can either like it, hate it, moan about it. If any of you have ever had a pity party, you know that not a lot of people like to come. There is a time of grieving. In Ecclesiastes, it says there is a time for everything. And I read that whole book when I was preparing to come here. One thing Solomon said, while there's a time for everything, he also says everything is meaningless. It's meaningless because God is going to come in the end. Whether or not we help Him or whether or not we're detractors, He's coming, He's going to look at us, and He is going to say either, welcome home, my good and faithful servant, well done, or He's going to say, I don't know you. Coming here does not get you up there. It is our relationship with Christ, and if we have a true relationship, we will try and we will work with His power to become Christ-like.